Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space. And we try to take little bits and pieces from their journey and the things that they're doing, and hopefully apply them to our own lives as well. But, again, I have a really cool guest today. We're going to jump into that in just a second. But wanted to first of all say this episode is sponsored by Thirdsy. And if you've heard a couple of our recent episodes, we actually talked to the founder of that, and you'd probably hear a little bit about it. But it's they create, and if you're on video, you can see it. They create natural products that help athletes and high performers get better quality rest and recovery from physical and mental stress. So their PM Recovery Collagen, which is this, you'll see it's actually open because I've tried it out myself. It's melatonin free, it's sedative free drink powder that gives you the best quality rest while supporting joint and muscle recovery at the same time. So you just take a scoop before bed and you wake up hopefully a lot more energized and ready to take on the day. So if you go to thirdsy.com, that's THIRDZY, or Z for our American counterparts, and use the code BIBM20, and you can save 20% on that. So definitely check it out and see if it works for you. And so I'm really happy to have Lindsay Eastwood with us today. She's in her third season of pro hockey with the Toronto Six and the PHF. She holds a place in history there as well by scoring the first ever goal for the Six franchise. And last year, she represented the team at the league's All-Star Showcase as well. She also, and I'll try to go through some of the NCAA stuff, Lindsay, as well, but basically went to Syracuse University and captained that squad for some of her time there as well, and was also a silver medalist with Team Canada under 18 women's team at the IIHF in 2014 as well. So, but I also know that she's a marketer outside of doing pro hockey as well, and has done some work kind of building brands there. And when she's not playing hockey or in business, she also has done some skill development coaching as well. So first of all, lots going on, and we're kind of in mid-season right now. So thank you for taking the time to spend with us today, Lindsay. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the intro there, Jamie, and I'm happy to chat with you today.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that I know we've talked a couple of times, and I've kind of followed the Six for the first little while, but you've had the first couple of years where we're probably at the weirdest time to actually have to do this because we had so much with the pandemic, and this year is probably the most normal season that has started for you. And maybe we'll just ask, has it felt like a little more of a rhythm this year than maybe you've had in the first couple of years with the Six?
Yeah, it definitely feels more like a season, a real season. Last year was a little better. The first year,
Hmm.
obviously, 2020, 2021, we did a little bubble season, condensed bubble, and and then last year we still had games that would get canceled due to COVID or people like traveling purposes, and so now we're finally back on it, running smoothly, and knock on wood. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's you can never be too sure these days. But no, so
Yeah.
far so good, and it feels pretty normal. The weekday schedule, even our team, the fact that we practice more, and it just feels way more legit this year.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about so it's a relatively new franchise. I mean, especially with the COVID stuff that happened before. But I mentioned at the start you got the first goal for the franchise, and maybe I'll kind of throw that out there to start with. How did that feel to get the first goal? Because I know that was a pretty big event. But how is it knowing that you've kind of got a little spot in history there with the team as well?
Yeah, that was definitely a big goal, and one that I'll never forget. That's for sure. I remember in the moment though, I was just pumped we were on the board, and
Yeah.
we had a lead in the game, so I didn't even think anything of it. It was afterwards that I didn't realize it was this cool of a goal, I guess, that special of a moment. So but now looking back, definitely one I'll remember forever. And the monkey off the back pretty early in the season, so our condensed season,
Right.
and which felt pretty nice. But yeah, no, definitely a big goal, and hopefully more to come.
Yeah. Well, and how has the season been going so far? I mean, I know that it's still pretty early in the season, but has it felt good from that standpoint so far?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple games under our belt, and it's a couple road trips, couple big wins. So, yeah, it's feeling good.
Yeah, good. Well, and so we talked about a little bit about your path to the six before, but maybe one of the things is that the six has been so successful so far, which is pretty cool. That oftentimes that can be a bit of a learning experience as you go through. But you've been one of the top teams for literally since inception. How has the experience been growing a team? Because as a player, it probably you have a little more added responsibility when you're also trying to kind of promote and get things out there. Has that been a different experience for you, or what's that been like?
Yeah, no, it's definitely come a long way since 3 years ago when I first joined the six. And just even things like I mentioned earlier, we practice 3 times a week, whereas before it was
Mhm.
only twice a week and it was late at night. Now we get the
Yeah,
good ice times in the morning. And
yeah,
it just feels a lot more streamlined and more professional in that regards. And
hmm,
when the following has been great, getting people to come out and watch us, it's been awesome to see that. Our first home weekend, we sold out at Canland, New York. So that's
yeah,
great to see. But yeah, like you mentioned, we definitely as we have another another priority when we're playing is we're not just going to the rink and getting on the ice. Like, we also have to grow the game off the ice, and that's definitely a responsibility that we have to take on. And
hmm,
but it's we all love it. It's
yeah,
great. It's getting to connect with the younger group. This year we're doing autographs after our home games, which is awesome, and it's
yeah,
it's pretty cool to see. And the fact that these young ladies look up to us is pretty humbling. So
yeah.
yeah, we definitely do have another responsibility off the ice to help grow the game, but it's nothing to shy away from.
Yeah, what is that like to be? Because when you were coming up, when you were younger, and which wasn't that long ago, but did you have certain people that you had as it's either mentors or people you thought, wow, that person is pretty amazing, and I'd like to be like them? Did you have people like that? And what's it like now that the tables have turned a bit, and you get to play that role for a bunch of young women and probably boys as well?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely had role models that I looked up to and other players. And being from Ottawa, I know Jamie Lee
Mm,
Rattray, she's from Ottawa, so
yeah.
always looked up to her for sure. And yeah, and now like I still like don't believe it when people say they look up to me or whatever, young girls. It's pretty cool. It's definitely humbling. And
Yeah.
you just you take on that responsibility that you have to be a good role model out there. And
Yeah.
it's very, very sweet and people come up to me or whatever at the games and stuff. But no, it's now that the tables have turned, it doesn't feel any different really. It's just humbling.
Yeah. Well, and so one of the things it does set, and I think the PHF has done this generally, but Toronto Six has done a lot of this is not just even just growing the game, but growing definitely women and females in sport. Is that an is that something that affects the players? Like I know a lot of the business side of things is to be able to kind of promote that and make sure that you're kind of capturing an audience that way. Is that something that the players kind of feel a responsibility for, or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, I think our upper management front office, I guess you could say, they do a good job of going out there and getting us sponsors to take
Mhm.
care of that side of things, to make it a business. And but we just have to put a good product on the ice.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day our job, and be good role models off the ice. So if we're, putting ourselves in a good light and being good people, I think that goes a long way. And especially these days there's people are watching women's sports. It's growing,
Mhm.
and it's there's a lot to come here, and I think a lot more growth to even happen.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if everybody knows that you have a relatively new kind of ownership group that's a really diverse, very cool ownership group that has Angela James and Anthony Stewart and Bernice Carnegie and all these really kind of cool people in that space. And the growth is obviously there, which is nice to see. You mentioned that you do. You're able to practice more and things like that. But what does a day in the life look like for somebody who's a pro athlete from that standpoint, who also, I mean, a lot of people still know that you still have to do some work. So you work and you do your training and all of those things, and probably want to have a bit of a social life as well. You're still young, so how do you balance some of those things to make sure you still are able to do what you need to do as a pro athlete?
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act. I know, like you mentioned, I still have to work a little bit. This year I've been pretty fortunate that hockey gets to be my full-time job, and
Hmm.
I just work part-time on the side.
Yeah.
But that's something honestly that I take a lot of pride in, is working at the same time as playing. 'Cause I want to, when I do step away from the game, or it could I could get injured tomorrow. Hockey isn't going to be
Mhm.
forever, and so it's good to get yourself prepared for the future. And so this
Yeah.
way I still keep my skills sharp. I'm still getting some experience, and it also, I think I'm at my best when I'm busiest, which
Yeah.
is, some people find that a little crazy, but when I'm busiest, I'm most efficient in all aspects. So I definitely, I don't mind especially that I'm working part-time now. So I work
Yeah.
20 hours a week, and it's a hybrid system from home and in the office, and then I go to
Yeah.
practice. So at the end of the day, it is a full day, but some ways to help balance this is, I actually use my own brand to try and get some partnerships and whatnot. So I have a food meal prep
Hmm.
company with 16 ounces, and they help me. They
Yeah.
send me food, and I just pop it in the oven, and it's a good hearty, healthy meal, and I don't have to worry about cooking then. And
Right.
so
Right.
that saves a lot of time. A nice healthy meal that's ready for you. I don't have my mom here to cook for me anymore, so definitely nice in that regards. But
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
staying on top of sleep, I know that's huge for me. Is my sleep
Yeah.
so important? So makes me a happier individual when I'm well rested. And then just obviously making time for friends when you can. We have a couple off weekends with our league schedule. We only play about 24 games, and to
Hmm.
me that's, I'm used to playing 30 35 in
Yeah.
university. So it's not that many games. We get a good amount of off weekends. So, take care of yourself. If it's, you have to focus on some more work away from the rink, or seeing some family, some friends, that definitely take advantage of those weekends as well to help balance everything at the end of the day.
Like, do you have to do much training outside of the actual, like your on ice training and all those things? Do you find you have to do a lot of kind of in gym training, or is it less during the season when you're in the middle of it right now?
It's definitely less during the season, but I do, I do carve out time for that. And a lot, when we have like the last 2 weekends, we were on the road, so it
Yeah.
was pretty. Those are exhausting weekends. You get home pretty late
Yeah.
on Sunday night after it's a long day. So, those weeks I just stick to the regimen at the rink, and we work out before practice every day, or
Yeah.
the 3 days that we're there, and then we hit the ice. But on off weekends, I'll make sure I get an extra workout, some extra cardio in, and then just recovery is huge. So like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a big stretcher. I need to stretch or yoga if I can. So I mix that in, and you can find that online even. So it's so super easy to just do from the comfort of my own home. And
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely on the busier weeks, I try to take it, just stick to what's going on at the rink, and when we
Yeah.
have some downtime, I'll keep up with some other
Yeah,
fitness.
all the other stuff. And you did mention a little bit about when what you like to do that work, but you're also planning so that one day, when you're not playing hockey professionally, that you do other things. And I know we first connected when you were kind of coming up to Toronto and doing, looking at different jobs to do while you were there and things like that. Um, One of the things, do you find, are there things that you've developed through hockey, whether that was, at school or now kind of with the six, that you see, really help you in your workplace? Like, are there things that cross over and things that you think, wow, this is what really helps me be a better, leader, better employee, that kind of thing? Are there things like that that you see?
Totally, totally. Those soft skills, I guess you could say, I hone in on them a lot. So even, I know we've been talking about it a lot today, time management.
Hmm.
I learned that from hockey. You have to be able to balance, like in
Yeah.
university, I was going to school full time. Hockey was even busier than it is right now. So it's you have to be able to manage that. And then with work, making sure you're hitting your deadlines, because that's how you stay a good employee too, right? So
Yeah.
really managing my time on that front, and making sure everything gets done, but then also getting to the rink, making sure I'm able to get to the rink on time, and balancing that. But yeah, working as a team is something that, you know, we always did school projects in university, and you'd have to work with your classmates, and it was pretty agonizing at times. But
Yeah.
you in the workforce, you're a team, especially in the line of work that I'm doing. It's we're a team that we to get things done. And so being able to work with others, and I think that really comes down from hockey. Is I've been playing on a team since I was 6 years old, so I've been
Yeah.
practicing that skill for a while. And then also just having a strong work ethic. I see a lot too. It goes a long way. Just being able to open to, things that you don't know, if you're hesitant about, your boss gives you something, sometimes it's a little intimidating, but just being willing to get through it, learn it, and figure it out, that goes a long way. And not turning down anything. And I think that also comes from playing sports, is just, you're dealt with challenges all the time, and you just have to get through it. You got to be resilient and use your resources around you to make it work.
Yeah. Now, Lindsay, are you a goal setter? Like, I'm sure you have very specific goals from from a sports standpoint and things like that. But do you write them down? Like, do you write your different goals down that you want in professional or personal life? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, I definitely have some big goals and big dreams in my personal life and work life post
Yeah,
hockey.
yeah.
They're kind of just sitting in the back of my mind, but day to day, I think those ones I used to do weekly. I'd write down, okay, this is what it's kind of more like a manifestation. So
Hmm.
like telling myself, just putting it out there so I'll get it done kind of thing. So setting like smaller goals. This is or checklist. Like I need my checklist, and it feels so good to check it off once you do it. So
Yeah,
I'm a big write it down, and then if it's down there, I see it, I have to get it done, and then
yeah.
it always feels good seeing all the boxes checked at the end of the week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting that there are some people that are totally driven by just being able to, either use a highlighter or check it off, and that just gives you a sense of accomplishment as we do that. Um, so one of the things that we do is that we always get a couple of kind of key takeaways, I guess, for the audience, and we've had a few of them here, especially if somebody's looking at following how your team works, but also how they might approach training and things like that. Maybe first of all, just before we do that, I guess, when young girls are talking to you about, how do you become, like, how do you get to the level that you're at now? There's probably tons of people that are looking at you as that kind of role model. Are there things that you'd say to some of those young girls that you are looking at? Okay, I could go to a school that that really values kind of women's hockey, and then it could lead to a professional kind of role. Now, are there things that you'd give them as advice as to how to look at that if it is something they really want to do?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I know growing up, I always had big dreams. For me, growing up, it was to go play university, and then
Mhm.
once university was over, I wanted to keep playing hockey and professional. I got to understand the professional women's hockey landscape, and so then this door opened for me, which was awesome with the six. But now I think young girls are getting they're able to see that there is life after hockey, hockey after, or sorry, life after college hockey.
Yeah.
So there is professional leagues that they can join, and whereas I didn't really see that as much. It wasn't as out there.
Hmm.
I know they were there, but players weren't making money, or it was just kind of, it was there, but it was like a national team players. And so now seeing that there are professional leagues, I think these young ladies can see that there is something to strive for. And if
Yeah.
they wanted to go after it, don't 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 let that be a roadblock, nerves or anxiousness. Keep pushing through it. And if you want it, there's a way. You just got to work at it. And obviously there's little steps along the way, but don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great example of what the six is doing is it gives that opportunity to people that, and lets them picture something that they may not have been able to see before. So that's great. So the real thing, kind of, we're going to kind of give a couple of key tips if you can. You mentioned, Lindsay, that how important working with a team has been since you were really young, and because if you've been part of a team for all that time, and we're a captain and assistant captains and things like that. Do you have a few key tips of what are a couple of the big things to try to have a cohesive team? Are there a couple of things that people have to keep in mind, or that really are some of that secret sauce of having a really good cohesive team?
Yeah, I think as a leader, you need to remember, it's human then athlete, or it's human then employee kind of thing, and I think that that really makes your team, your teammates, your colleagues, everyone feel a little bit better about themselves, that your leader cares about you. And I think that that's really important. And then also team bonding. I know people don't really like the icebreaker games all the time, but honestly, once you get going, I think it makes a big difference. Getting to know people away from the project, away from the rink, off the ice, or away from the office. I think that that goes a long way, and it builds relationships outside of the workplace. And at the end of the day, then if someone is struggling and they need help, well, that's your friend now, and you want to make sure. I know I want to make sure my friends are doing well and succeeding. So you're more willing to help them if you have a relationship. And so building those relationships away from the rink or the office, I think is huge.
Yeah, well, I love the human before athlete or human before employee kind of thing as well. It goes for basically anything. Is that you can always have a better connection with someone if you know a little bit more about where they're coming from. So that's great. If people want to be able to follow you and what you're doing over the next little while, what are some of the best ways to do that, Lindsay?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My handle is Lindsay Eastwood, but instead of O's, it's zeros. And then on Instagram, my handle is Linds East with two T's. And then I
Right.
also have a website, www.lindsay.eastwood.com.
All right. And what we'll do is we'll put in the show notes, we'll put all the links for those. So so everybody can follow all of them and take a look at all of them. And yes, so some great stuff to see over the next little while. I think you're going to be heading into probably a busy season, both like to wrap up December, but also kind of heading into the new year. There'll be lots going on. So definitely do that. To anybody listening, if you haven't already, hit subscribe on the podcast. We have great people every week, just like Lindsay. And again, I know things are probably quite busy for you right now, Lindsay. So we really appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Of course, it's great talking with you, Jamie.
All right. And everybody else, we will talk again on Big Idea, Big Moves.